Live,
Awesome.
ready to go. Okay, so I wanna thank Nick for jumping on and jumping on the mic in the Louie podcast. So tell me, um, anyone who's been living under a rock the past couple of years, who are you? What are you all about?
Yeah, so I am the founder of Jitsy Club, which is a Gold Coast-based tape and apparel brand. My business partner and I are also exceptionally average blue belts, training at different gyms. And I guess our whole thing with Jitsy is just like you don't have to be a pro athlete to train. You don't have to wear a hyperflyer show your all the time. There's a whole world of people who just show up to stay fit, be social, and try to strangle people.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And what I find, what I find amazing, um, more so with social media and that kind of stuff. It's literally we have this incredible platform in which that it's like you know what, anyone that has a similar passion for the two of us is jiu-jitsu, and we can connect and
Yeah,
just share our passions with the with the amazing world,
100%.
that is around jiu-jitsu. So how did you get into jiu-jitsu in the first place?
Well, it was funny. I've been doing it for about 5 years now, and prior to that, I'd done a bit of MMA and a bit of Krav Maga. Um,
Yeah.
just because it was interesting. Before that, I did a lot of CrossFit, and I just found with CrossFit, it was great for your fitness, but it was a very much like a removed scientific activity that you sort of did by yourself, despite being in a team or a club or whatever. And I sort of got bored, so I went towards martial arts, and I just found I just hated getting punched in the face, and I hated punching people in the face. And they're really large components of the MMA sphere. Uh, so I just sort of thought I went down to Full Metal Jiu-Jitsu at Burley and thought, oh, I'll give this a go, see how this goes. And that was it. Just never stopped training
That's
there.
beautiful.
Mm.
That's amazing. I was exactly the same. I started MMA years ago, a while ago. Um, at the time, I wasn't really doing anything constructive with my. I wasn't really doing anything constructive with my life at the time. I was like, was drinking a little too much, and I was falling into bad habits. And you know what? A friend of mine had told me about it and said, try MMA. And the very first class that I went to was jiu-jitsu. I stuck
Yeah,
with MMA, but once I did jiu-jitsu, I was like, holy shit, I'm completely hooked. I love it. I
yeah,
got
yeah,
I got the warm up absolutely killed me. I got absolutely destroyed by these tiny
yeah,
little people. I'm like, how the fuck is this happening to me? And
yeah,
nonetheless, um, I stuck with MMA for a little bit of time. I dabbled in Krav Maga for a little bit as well. But it was only in the last 5, 6 years that I was like, I like jiu-jitsu, I love training, and so it kind of stuck to the wall, and
yeah,
I've been loving this lifestyle
yeah,
for quite some time.
yeah. And it's the humbling bit where like you get some little guy that absolutely towers you up, and you just think, how did that happen? Uh, and we get it now a lot. You get because we're on the Gold Coast, we get a lot of bodybuilders and footy boys who come through, and we've got a sort of little stable of small people who get sent over there if they're being a bit fresh, just to simmer them down.
Yeah.
But normally, if you could just stay on top or even not on top for a minute, they get gassed, and then you're good to go.
Like the guys that I train with the majority of the time, they're bigger. Like I'm last time I checked, I was about 81 kilos, but really super strong. But
Yeah,
for my advantage, they like if they don't get gassed, like it's a hell of a fight. But a lot of the time they're getting gassed really super quickly, so it's like,
Yeah, that's the best bit,
worked in
right?
my advantage.
And even like, because I sort of weigh between like 71 and 74, depending on how much beer
Yeah.
I've had in the last few weeks. And it's, yeah,
Ah,
you know,
as you do.
it's good to get in a position where you're confident enough in what you do that even if someone's absolutely barreling you, you can kind of just tuck in a deep half or something and hang out there till they simmer down and then decide to make moves after that.
Absolutely. So, have you always been in the Gold Coast?
Yeah. So I was raised in the Gold Coast. I moved to Brisbane for 7 or 8 years for a previous
Yeah,
job, and
right.
then I moved back down. It's just like lifestyle is just so good here. It would be very different. It would be very difficult to compel me to leave, I think.
I like the people that I know that are living in the Gold Coast at the moment. They're like, it's warm all year round.
Yeah.
The people are friendly. Living is cheap, and it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
I like the idea of that.
It's
I really
yeah, it's like
like the
I
idea
like
of that.
going and seeing people in Sydney, but I'm just like, there's a lot going on here.
It's chaotic.
Yeah, it's
It
quite.
it the hustle and bustle is bonkers to say the least. And so what um what started Jitsy Club? How did it
Yeah,
was it like just a session at the pub and was like, yeah, fuck it, let's have a crack at it, or like give
yeah.
us a give us a
It, it
rundown.
it's a funny story how Jitsi started actually. So basically, my partner on it, Quinn, he owns a creative design firm, and
Yeah.
we've sort of had this long running beef where we had a super fight like about 3 and a bit years ago where I got my blue belt, which was a tag team. It was a tag team 10-minute super fight. So
Oh shit.
it was a complete disaster. Um, and we've just been threatening to have rematches since then, and we get posters made up and have press conferences, and it never happened. Like no one wants to fight each other. We're just absolutely disinterested in it. And from that, it sort of spawned this thing where we're like, oh, we should like collaborate and do something interesting because my background's business and finance.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
and then we're like, maybe we should look at tape, like because I'm not really happy with all the tape around. So we started doing that, and then we sort of did some cool T-shirts, and we just did a gi run. So it sort of came from a hobby and just a long running internet beef.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I mean, for anyone that's going to be listening or doesn't really have a bit of an understanding, um, jiu-jitsu doesn't pay. It really doesn't, unless you're a major competitor that you're backed up with a seminar. And I mean, the super fights they're cooler, but they're not really. You're not earning a bigger money. So we're seeing now more so than ever, you're having guys that are really monetizing jiu-jitsu in a bigger way, whether it's
Yeah.
online training or they're doing their own apparel or they're doing whatever. So
Yeah, definitely. I
it
think there's a lot of
yeah,
people like the seminar thing's really big now. A lot of people are doing seminars because there's sort of social media's managed to create these sort of minor celebrities within the jiu-jitsu community.
yeah.
And guys are all so distinct. Like, the Kurt Osianders of the world or the Gordon Ryans of the world. And people will pay to see them. And so there's no money in competition. So
No.
people are going down that path, whether they're doing like courses online or seminars. There's a few like big apparel sponsorships coming through with like Ruka at AOJ and things like that these days. But they're the first that are really like Ruka are one of the only labels that has the money to put big sponsorships in place.
There was I'm trying to remember the guy's name, but this a teammate of JT Torres that got sponsored by Shoyo Roll, and they've sponsored a couple of
Yeah.
really big names, but uh, it's very much in the baby stages, very much in the
Yeah.
preliminary stages.
Yeah, and we went over to Show Roll HQ in May, June this year when we were over at the
Shit.
Worlds. Yeah, and they're not even sponsoring. Their sponsorship pattern is more like just people they know that they think are cool. Um, so I know like Ossiander's been sponsored by them forever. I don't know if he still is. Like my professor is sponsored by them, but not on a commercial basis. They just send him a couple of geese a year that they think he'll like. But even their business is such a like, it's not, but it is a cottage business in that they're doing like maybe a drop a month or a drop every 2 months. They're only doing like 1,000 gears a drop. It's still, you can never get a show your roll limited run gi, right? It's impossible. You can only get comp standards. Yeah, it's interesting.
The thing is that you're having these guys that may or may not have a background within the business. I mean, ultimately, you have guys who have dedicated their life, so much of their time, to jiu-jitsu. That's what they know. They don't know. They don't necessarily know how distribution works. They don't necessarily know the ins and outs of it. I have no idea of the ins and outs of it. So anyone that is open to learning the ins and outs of the business and actually replace their income or whatever they do, it's irrelevant.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I would say to that too that like there's a rule like in business and entrepreneurship where you're not an entrepreneur until you've tried to start an apparel brand at some point, because literally everyone tries to do an apparel brand at some point or another, right? Because you can see it looks cool, you get to design stuff, the barrier to entry is pretty low, you just get a bunch of t-shirts and off you go. So it's a really good starting point if you're less experienced in business and you want to learn the ins and outs of a retail business, because like the money at stake's low. It's not like you have to buy a cafe or anything that costs a lot of money. You just have to print some t-shirts and see if you can sell them. And so even though everyone sort of laughs about starting apparel brands because it's an in-joke with anyone who's got a business, it's a really good low-risk place to start. And you get to create cool stuff. And like 100% up front, we don't make any money in our business. We both have other businesses we run. This is just a hobby for us. But the growth pattern for a business like this is that we're not going to make money for 2 or 3 years. But conversely, it's not costing us any money aside from time. And it's pretty fun to do because you just get to talk smack to people on social media and sell t-shirts and tape.
Absolutely. And guys that plays a lot of different grips. You'll see. I was Hamilo Bahao. He did a seminar at. I trained with Gracie Baha, and he came in and did a seminar. And the moment that he walked in, I mean, obviously his ears is all fucked. It's ridiculous. But I saw his fingers, his knuckles were so swollen. Because they're always playing some type of a grip. So if you're playing a lot of grips, you're gonna be strapping up your fingers like nobody's a business. And I mean, and even if you don't, your fingers are gonna get jammed up. So you have to use tape irrelevant. Me being a little lanky, I like using my grips, but eventually it's like my hands are getting absolutely mangled.
It's funny with the tape thing. I guess we're a little bit fortunate in how we started, in that the awareness around why people are using tape, aside from either your hands are fucked or you want to flex, that's starting to come through now. That like if you do your knuckles before you train, you've got a bit more stability, especially if you play a grip and lapel game. Like I play a big grip and lapel gi game, and like my fingers are quite strong, which is fortunate. But a lot of guys, like, they just get cooked, or when you're a white belt and you're learning the grip game, you don't know the right amount of force, or you hang on too long and it gets torn out. Your fingers are fucked. One of my training buddies, he's like same as me, same amount of time, and his 2 like ring fingers are just absolutely cooked. He has to tape them and strap them every class. But that's just the nature of the game if you're going to play a lapel game, which if you're doing gi is, half the game, right? Don't do no gi if you don't want to do it.
Half the game already. I mean, even if you're playing, even if you're on a side control, you're grabbing something. Unless, I mean, I've never understood no gi guys are strapping up their fingers, and it's like, you know what? If you jam your finger, I get it. It's an injury prevention, but you still have no gi guys are strapping up their fingers, which is like,
it's a bit.
Well, I don't understand you. What
Yeah.
like
It's
the
funny with that. I haven't been doing no gi for about 6 months now, just because my timetable hasn't been lining up, and I went back a couple of days ago,
yeah.
get back into it. And my first roll, I just got towelled by this white belt because I'm like, all right, time to sink my De La Heaver in and start working on this sweep. I'm just like, I got nothing. I can't grab anything. What's happening? And it took me like half the roll to remember, how to use your positioning differently. But bloody hell, you get reliant on your grips after a while.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like for guys that are much longer, have got a much longer limbs, you can at least in gi, you can at least you can grab something and
Yeah.
put your feet up and try catching your breath. Doesn't exist in a gi, and you're constantly push, 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 push,
Yeah,
push.
yeah.
You're always going hard, 5, 6, 7 minutes, however
Yeah,
long it
it's horrendous. I'm proud to say I hate dogi. That's no. I don't
is.
have the cardio. I don't want the cardio. I'm happy to play a slow ass gi game where we don't do much for half of it.
Man, I hear you. I hear you loud. I hear you loud and clear. And it's it's funny. I started to play. I started doing more like I started liking nogi more once a week at our gym where we do 80cc stuff, so we can do knee reaps, toe holds, all of that
What's the
shit.
what's
And
the
it's like
injury rate like on that day of the week?
it's actually not that. It's actually not that high. A lot of the guys that are just new belts, the seasoned blue belts, a couple of times the purple belt or a brown belt will rock up. But there's no ego. There is none. Especially when a guy slaps on a knee bar, there's no
Yeah.
waiting. I
No.
mean, you'll have if you have if you have a white belt or rock up to an 80cc, he's fucked.
Yeah.
It's
Good
like
for it.
it's just not smart.
No.
I find that the whole 80cc rule set, I think personally, someone should be exposed to that from day one. And the reason why I say that is because it's there, and it's only becoming a more popular. And sure, you're not going to be slapping on these insane knee bars, but you have to be aware of it. That if you are going to be doing grappling industries or
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
80cc, you have to know how to do heel hooks, toe holds, knee bars, all that stuff. I mean, everyone has their own opinion. What's it like? What are your thoughts on
Yeah.
the
I'm
matter?
I'm sort of I'm a little bit further across than you on this one in that I think a lot of injuries I see at our academy are the newer guys getting pretty wild with the legs. Um,
Yeah,
and I agree that I think it's important to be exposed to it and learn it, particularly from a defensive angle, because even if you don't play it, someone grabs your toe, you know it's bad, but you don't know what to do.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's something where you should at least be comfortable getting out of it or understanding the mechanics of it, not to hurt yourself. And then if you practice them a little bit on a higher belt or things, I think it's good once you get a bit more advanced. Because the other thing is you get guys who come through who are like, I just want to learn leg locks. I don't give a shit about passing. And then if they don't get 50-50 or a half or something, they just get
yeah,
wrecked, right? Um,
absolutely.
and you need those fundamentals. Um, but it's also kind of fun to grab a white belt's heel and roll and look at their face. I just see this look of like terror.
Yeah. uh, when it's every time I do a fundamentals class, I get more banged up than what I was before. It's like, you know what? Injuries are going to be part of the game. There's no two ways about it. But when you when it's like okay, we're going to go try to a fundamentals class. The idea is so that you're doing a fundamentals class. You're not meant to be going crazy, and then
Yeah.
you have this 110 plus kilo guy that's been doing jiu-jitsu for 3 weeks and he still doesn't understand his strength. It's like, oh
Yeah.
god.
We got
got it.
we got these two guys at our gym. They're both new. Like I think one guy's got his first stripe, the other doesn't. And they're extremely athletic, 90 kilo dudes, probably in like their late 20s, early 30s that have been fit their whole lives.
Yeah.
And like the other Saturday, I was watching them roll 4 minute rounds. Everyone's cruising, and like a minute and a half in, I just hear this like, and it was like watching like two wildebeests like fight. Like they were both fucked minute and a half in, and we're just panting and thrashing, and everyone was just looking at them, and we're just like, guys, just come on, settle down, settle down.
You're fighting for a fucking UFC
Yeah,
belt.
they're in like just puddles of sweat and rolling around, and we're just like, oh, Jesus Christ, all right. But I mean, if I was a new white belt and I was actually fit when I started, I'd probably do the same because you're scared and you don't know what's going on, and you're like, fuck this guy, I'm just gonna try to kill him.
Try to rip the guy's head off.
Try to rip his head off. But with that though, I find like personally, I'd much rather let go of a submission than risk an injury. Like even if I got it 80% on and it's just a little bit off, or I don't think they're gonna tap, like I think they're gonna try to power out of it. I'll just be like, nah. Like,
Let go.
who cares? I'm literally never gonna win a competition of note. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's like a lot of higher belts take the piss on lower belts, but in all fairness, I like comparing it to learning how to drive a car. We're excited about the idea of going behind a wheel, but to the moment that we sit behind the wheel, we put on our belt, hopefully, and we put our foot down on the accelerator, and it just jolts, and it's like, what the fuck just happened, the kind of thing, and it's almost very similar to it. We're excited, but have no idea what we're doing, and someone that is going to be starting a jiu-jitsu, the entire white belt, don't care if you're 3 stripes, 4 stripes, just about to get to your blue belt, you're on survival mode for a year or two.
Oh, I was on survival mode for about 18 months into my blue belt still. Especially when people see, they're like, look at this new blue belt, fuck this guy. Like
fuck him up.
you don't get that it's a white belt.
Yeah.
Thing.
It's like you get your blue belt, and then you have a much bigger target on your back. I got my blue belt, and I was rolling. He was number 1 in the country for his weight and his belt. He's a purple belt now, but the moment I started rolling with him, wrist lock, he must have wrist me 10 times before I realized. I'm like, fuck, how do I stop this?
Yeah, you're like, I've always just like left it hanging there and assumed it was fine. Yeah, I was in the States a couple of years ago, up in like Indiana in the middle of nowhere, and I went to this gym. It was like some Gracie gym. I can't remember who he was. There's like 7,000 Gracies. Really lovely dude. And the professor always wants to roll with some new random guy that blows in to check he's not a psychopath.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, no worries. Wrist lock me 10 times. And I was like, at that stage, I hadn't really done much with wrist locks. I'm just like, dude, I don't know what you want me to do here. Like, are you allowed to do this? Is this a thing? Is this just your gym?
Blue belts. The blue belts say you can wrist lock like crazy. And
he just didn't care. He's like, yeah, you should probably learn this. I'm like, yeah, I probably should, but didn't know it existed.
Have you done much competing before?
I've done probably 5 or 6 comps. I just don't. I'm in the fortunate position where once you turn 30, you can go in masters.
Yeah.
And it's all guys who are like moderately interested, but not interested enough to actually seriously compete in the open age.
Yeah.
So you get like dudes in their 30s who have jobs and families and stuff who just sort of want to roll with a new guy and have a schnitzel and a beer afterwards. And that's sort of where I like being. I don't know. There's sort of, there's like 2 personality types. There's people who thrive on competition and people who don't. And I just don't, like, I'm just not interested in defeating someone to the point of putting that much effort in, if it makes sense. Like, I just don't, I'm like, yeah, okay, I lost, whatever. Whereas my partner, she is like ultra competitive, and she did a second comp a few months ago, and she was just like, I'm going to try to fuck everyone up in here. And I'm like, all right, you don't have to do that. Don't do that. Settle down. And the professor's like, no, you need to do that. Do that. I'm like, no, you just you don't need to do that. What about you? You compete much?
I competed a couple of times. So once, like a few times on my white belt, a few times on my blue belt, and it got to the stage where I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. And for me, you need for me, I want to enjoy what I'm doing. I don't necessarily and sure, doing competitions you're gonna have to push yourself, no two ways about it, mentally and physically, because we're we run away from danger naturally as human species. We want to run away from danger. We don't want to be going closer to it, so it's counterintuitive. Um, but I competed a couple of times, and you know what? It was a phenomenal learning experience.
Definitely.
Like there was one time where I was competing, and I was so nervous. It got to a point where literally every hour I was running off to the toilet. I was so nervous. And my name got called. I went down to the mat and I looked at my professor. I'm like, I'm terrified. My stomach is inside out. I can't do it. He's like, you know what? Get on the mat and your stomach will settle. And what was weird, that's exactly what happened. And it turned out it's nerves. When you get butterflies in your belly for one reason or another, it throws off absolutely everything, including your digestive tract.
100%. Yeah, and it's I think I'd recommend it for people, even if you're not a particularly competitive person. You need to understand what it feels like in a competition or like 110% situation. Because even if you're rolling hard with your buddy, you're not in like, even if you're in competition mode at your gym, you're not in competition mode where it's a stranger whose goal is to hurt you, essentially. And it's just a completely different sensation. So I certainly recommend it to people, and I do it like a couple of times a year for that reason. But I don't know, some people just love the idea of competition and the training and the grinding and the defeating, and I'd rather everyone had a good time and like enjoyed themselves.
Absolutely.
And that's not a great mindset for competition.
Yeah. There's like, for someone that is just going in, get your name on the dotted line, put the money down, and just go there and
don't think about it anymore.
Hey?
Don't think about it for the next 3 weeks. Just train.
Just train. Don't try not to think about it as much as you can, and just rock up and give absolutely everything that you have. If you to take it seriously, give yourself a 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, give or take, just to first get your name down, then start training, start building yourself up. I'm not recommending anyone just sign their name 2 weeks before. It's too much of an overload of absolutely everything, and if you that can still good on you, I want to talk to you. Definitely recommend it to absolutely everybody.
And then,
go on, sorry.
And then you look at like the standard of competition, like if you go to the Worlds and watch and stuff, like that's a whole new. They're doing like 8 matches a day, back to back, best people in the world, like Murderfest, and still going. And there's and the speed and precision at which they operate. You look at it and you're like, everyone I'm sitting with is terrible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just at this such a high level that you can't even imagine. And even rolling with them, like if you roll with like a really high ranking, like a world champ or a competitive black belt, it's just witchcraft, basically. Like it doesn't even make sense what they're doing. You know, even if you understand the sport, you're still like, how the fuck? Like I got to roll with Huff Mendez once at a seminar.
Oh my God.
And it was just, I was utterly bamboozled by everything. Like I didn't even have a chance to think about regarding. He just stepped backwards, rolled over me, choked me. You know, like it just defied reality.
The last couple of months, I've really liked his style. It's the way that I see it is because he's a smaller guy, but he uses the person's mechanics in
Yeah.
such a way that it's like he uses heaps of grips, especially behind the belt or on the
Yeah.
top of the sleeve, the top of the neck or whatever. But the way that he moves and his style is phenomenal, and I've been absolutely loving that.
It's crazy when you see the way they move. And that back suitcase grip that they do a lot, I've started picking that up because it's super useful because I'm a smaller guy too, where you can just like hunker in and just start walking your way up. And it's very difficult to break a grip behind your head as well.
I got funnily enough, I got a wrist lock by my professor a few months back, and ever since then, I don't grab it closer to the neck. It's straight away. The first grip that I'm trying to go for is right behind your back. It's like, you can't wrist lock me now, bitch.
You can't get it there. Good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah. But even the sport's just moving so fast now that, you just can't keep up with techniques. Like every now and again, someone will roll into the gym, one of your mates, and they'll just do some bizarre thing. And you're like, what was that? And they're like, I saw it on YouTube. And then, for 3 weeks, they just dominate everyone until everyone figures out how to counter it. And then you go back to fundamentals for a few weeks that actually work until you figure out some new like novelty move to pull on everyone.
Everyone is like, hey, you're seeing it on Instagram, you're seeing it on the YouTube of this guy that's doing this fucking flying armbar, flying triangle.
Yeah.
God knows what. It's like, you know what? If you can pull that off, cool. But the fundamentals are there for a reason.
Every now and again I'll see something sexy online and I'm like, I'm gonna hit that. And then I remember I forget left and right a fair bit. And like I can't be executing complicated inverted movements in the air when sometimes I forget how to pass guard. Like I need to simmer down on that one a bit. Or I'm like, okay, I'm caught in half. I should definitely go this way and like sweep myself. I'm like, oh, the other way. Fuck.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Because it's always, how like you're in a position and you're like, one of the moves is left and one's right, but you have to do them at different times. Otherwise, you just get smashed. And I always do the wrong one at the wrong time. And then I just hear this groan from like everyone watching. I'm like, I did it again.
Fucked up.
Sorry, everyone.
That happens, and that's part of the learning process, I guess.
I mean, it makes you better too, because then you got to get out of an even worse spot.
Absolutely. A lot like since I got my first striper under my blue belt, and that was a couple of years back. I have been a lot of the time I end up playing off my back, and naturally my retention to guard has improved. To playing half and deep half has naturally improved, but also my confidence, which is absolutely massive. I'm now scooting in to getting butterflies, even on much bigger guys, and it's like, you know what? I've got absolutely nothing to lose, and sure, I may freak out to when your breathing is when your breathing has been interrupted, but it's like your confidence goes through the roof when you're trying different shit, and it's like it's amazing. And I mean, anyone that's going to be listening to this, if you haven't thought about doing a jiu-jitsu just yet, absolutely go for it. You've ultimately got nothing to lose, and it only gets better. I mean, sure, the fights are going to get harder, but you're going to be such a better person for it.
And it like I hate to sort of quote Joe Rogan because it's been done to death. But it is, once you get a bit of knowledge of the sport, the fights get harder, but it's not a fight anymore in your head. You're like solving a problem. You're like, okay, this guy's got me in this position. And my legs there, my arms there, I need to get out. So it's funny. You move from this like panic thrash fight battle, which you have for the first 18 months to 4 years, if you may. And then you get to this point where you enjoy it, because even if you're in a terrible position and the guy's thrown his chin into your jaw and your teeth might have gone, you're like, all right, now I know how to figure out how to get out of it. And so it becomes, that's where the fun and I guess like the flow state comes from, because you're no longer in this huge panic about what to do. And that's where the good stuff is. You just got to get through the first bit and then you get to the good stuff.
Absolutely. And there's so many different things that has a direct correlation off the mats. And one thing that has really stuck with me is everything that you do on the mats is a direct correlation to what you do off it. If you're giving a 50% and you're not really giving your all, it's going to be a direct correlation with absolutely everything that you do off the mats, whether it's your partner, whether it's work, whether it's whatever you're doing. And there's so much that we can talk about, and we'll be here for the next fucking 2 weeks kind of thing. But I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things I just say with that is I teach a lot of kids classes, and we get probably half the kids that come in. Their parents will sit there and sort of look and be looking around for a few weeks, and it'll be like, "Come on, do you want to try the beginner class?" And they'll be like, "No." And then after about a month or two, they'll come on and you'll see them rock up. And we've now got a bunch of like parent and kid combos that train. And the kids are getting to the age now where they're in the adults class with their parents. And they're like if you watch a dad and like a 16-year-old son go, it's like a scrap of all scraps, because they're both pissed off with each other about whatever happened at home with no chores and things like that. It's great. But they're like, the relationships they have that I see are really, really good, because they've had this like one activity that they bond over all the time, and they've gotten better together.
Yeah. And it blows me away. It's the exact same thing. And there's only been a few parents that have their kids on the mats that they follow through. And I taught I teach as well a couple of the kids classes. But when I speak to the parents, I'm like, "When are you coming on?"
Yeah.
And they give me some BS excuse.
Yeah, always.
Are you sending your kid onto the mat to live your dream through them? I don't say that, but it's like, fucking, if you're putting your kid to improve their life, it is almost your responsibility to be on the mat. It almost is.
Definitely. And they always get on eventually they'll you see them come toddling on with their little borrowed gear, and you're like, okay, good, here we go.
Yeah. And it's a great thing, honestly. So with that being said, what are your goals moving forward now with whether it's jiu-jitsu, whether it's the jitsy club?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, personally, I've been a blue belt for about 3 years now, so I'm starting to train and get serious about training towards my next belt. And you know how the rule of thumb is you're not allowed to mention that, or your professor bumps you back 6 months. So I've probably just lost another 6 months. But in saying that, it's good to have something where you're like, okay, I know I need to correct these things to start moving that way. It gives you focus. Or otherwise, you just sort of, you rock up to training and you dick around for 2 hours and you go home. So that's a big focus of mine. And with Jitsy, I guess we're just gearing up for the Christmas period, because that'll be quite busy. We've got a new shirt collab that I'm actually wearing right now that we won't drop till the new year.
Yeah.
We got a local artist, Sean Carr, who we train with, and we've done an old school traditional t-shirt called Grips and Trips. So
so cool.
Yeah. So that'll be nice. We'll drop that early next year. We did a gi collab that came out about a month ago that we're really happy with. So we're just sort of working through that. And just figuring it out, right? Because as I said before, it's significantly harder. Like in your head, running an apparel business seems really easy, right? But there's like a million little things like Your supplier where you get your rash guards from sends your rash guards to the wrong place. Like the guy that does your geese goes out of business. You got to find more. Just all these things like the courier doesn't pick up your orders. Like every time you add a new t-shirt, it's actually 5 different products because you have 5 sizes. So you need 5 different shirts, 5 runs of those. You got to store them. And so it's solving those problems that are really fun. And obviously it's not rocket science solving an apparel business because everyone's done it. But the journey's still fun. So that's sort of what we're working on, I think, for the next sort of 6 to 12 months.
That's beautiful, man. That's cool, man. It's so awesome meeting someone not only that they're entrepreneurial and that they're doing jiu-jitsu. It's a phenomenal trait, and I'm not sure if you've heard of this guy Cohen Ray. Nonetheless, originally from Brizzy, and majority of guys that are CEOs or they're doing amazing things in their life, they have 2 things that they've done. They've either been in the army or special forces or whatever, or they do martial arts or something competitive. Because if you don't have that discipline to doing the day-to-day stuff, having the conversations, building rapport, doing this, that, all that jazz, you ain't gonna do it. You just won't.
That's an interesting point. Like I've owned a few businesses. I just sold, actually 2 weeks ago, I sold my most recent one. And the biggest thing is it's just the discipline. Like there's it's not all like Gary V, business class, you know what I mean? There's it's like training. There's these really long periods of just running around the mats doing push-ups, or like the business equivalent, right? Where it's like boring and you have to have discipline. And even so, I used to be in corporate finance and then I quit that to do my own thing. And I still get up at 6 every morning. I still make sure I'm ready to start working at 9 o'clock every day.
Yeah.
Regardless, because if you treat self-employment like a holiday, you'll fail. Because you can't not have discipline and be successful in something like business, because business is the sum of thousands of little actions together. You don't start a business and then question mark, and then a Ferrari appears. It's just thousands of small reactions that present opportunities that make opportunities happen. And so jiu-jitsu, even when I'm self-employed as well, having something before jiu-jitsu I was doing Krav or CrossFit, or something where you have to show up to a place at a time every day and someone else is in charge and you got to follow their instructions. You need that discipline or you can't succeed in business because you don't have the structure to do it. It's as simple as that. It's anything, right? You're going to be a bodybuilder. You need to do work.
You need to be eating right. You need to be going into the gym. If you look at Ronnie Coleman or Arnie or any of those guys, they were eating stupid amounts of food and lifting twice a day. And they did that when they didn't have a cent to their name, but they kept at it. I mean, and I'm not saying, luckily for us in this day and age, we can create a side hustle or a side project or whatever you want to call it in the pocket of our time. And it's just chipping away at it until your side project is replacing your 9 to 5. And you can leave that. Back then, they didn't have that. Just so obviously the extreme was drop everything, follow my passion, and hope for the best kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think the other thing you notice with all these guys is you need, and I know it's sounds trite and everyone in the world says it, but you need to at least enjoy the thing you're doing as a business if you're in a business or a hobby. You don't have to love it, absolutely love it. But if you actively dislike or don't feel anything towards it, you won't have that pull to get through the day when you just have to call 50 people. You know what I mean? You just won't. So you need to at least enjoy the thing, because it makes up for the shitty stuff that happens half the time.
Yeah.
basically. So like guys like Arnie and Ronnie Coleman, bodybuilders, if they didn't enjoy bodybuilding or the process, they wouldn't have done it or they wouldn't have been successful because you can't tolerate that much unpleasantness for that long.
Yeah. On a completely side note, I mean, Ronnie Coleman can barely walk as it is anymore. I
Yeah.
mean, guys,
Look, he's not
knee,
great.
backs, hips are fucked.
Yeah.
On a complete side
I'm
note.
definitely not advocating people take up bodybuilding.
No.
But if you're into it, enjoy it. Good on you.
Yeah. Hats off, got my
Yeah,
hat.
this is weird. This is the guys who everyone has crippling arthritis in their hands after 3 years, so we can't really talk.
Yeah. There was one thing I saw from Henzo Gracie. It's so funny. He went to the doctor and he was like, you're not gonna be able to walk in a couple of years. He's like, I don't care about walking as long as I can roll. I'm happy. It's something on those lines. I'm paraphrasing it, but it's like, you know what?
Yeah, man, we had a seminar a couple of years ago with Osiander. He came down to Australia, and
Yeah.
like, he walked like, no disrespect to him, but he walks like a cave troll now because he's like comes in like, and he like spent 2 hours taping every joint of his body up, like his fingers look like tentacles. But I mean, that's if you're gonna train hard for 30 years. Like, it's hard on your body. And we know more now about recovery than we did when a lot of the guys started off. But it's still inherently a difficult activity that is physically painful. And that's, it's the price you pay.
It's he also competed at a really high level for a really long time. And yeah, as you said, we're very lucky that there's guys that have really went out of their way to really focus on the recovery aspect of things, because it's like injuries are going to be more prevalent than anything. The longer you stay within the sport, you have to learn how to take care of your body. You can't be smashing the beers on the weekend and be coming then trying to think that you're going to be rolling like Helio Gracie at the age of fucking 9 years old. It just doesn't work like that.
No, and again, your priorities shift though. Like, the more you get into the sport, the less inclined you're like, I don't want to have a huge one because I'm going to feel like shit for 2 days afterwards, and I'd rather not. So like, it's a good moderator in that regard. And the other thing is like taking rests. Like, there's no shame in having a day off if you feel really crappy. Just have a day off.
Yeah.
Like, I just got a DM from my buddy. We were going to train this morning, and he's like, I feel like a bus hit me. Like, let's can it today. Like, and that's all good, because otherwise I'd go over to his house, we'd mush each other, and then we'd probably get sick or feel like garbage tomorrow. We actually have to train at the academy.
Yeah, I did that. I did that on Thursday. I was so overtrained, and came the Thursday, I was like, I need a day off. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're seeing this as a long-term thing, I want to be rolling when I'm 90 years old and kicking everybody's ass. I still want to. But if you don't see it that way, then all right, it's your choice. Don't care.
It's funny. We've got a kid who, like, he's 16 now. He's really, really good, who trains for this. And because he was like a kid, right? He's got this super bendy, upside down, basically knee reaping guard thing he's got going on. And he's like, the other month, he's like, man, my knees are starting to really hurt. And I'm like, bro, you can't do that anymore. You're not a kid. Like, you're an adult. Your joints are hardening. You'll get injured. You need, like, and it's like, you'd probably know too, when you're in like your 20s and you're training, you like smash your ankle up or you hurt your shoulder and you just like go on the beers, and the next day you feel great and you're fine and the injury is miraculously healed. And it just stops happening as you get older. Like, you get a minor injury and it just becomes a thing. You gotta look like you can't be a hero about it anymore.
Yeah. Absolutely. Mate, this was a pleasure. This was a lot of fun.
You're good fun. Yeah, have me on again. I like it. Talking shit
mate.
about jiu-jitsu and making fun of white belts. That should be our next shirt.
I like that. Fucking choke people. You're the creative one, mate. Fuck, I'm
I've been
not.
trying to make a shirt. I've been trying to convince Win, the creative guy, to do a like Berimbolos before hose shirt, but he's just absolutely he's just like, no, absolutely not. I'm like, come on, man, Helios before hose. He's like, we're not doing a hose shirt.
Nothing
Fine.
with those.
What he doesn't know is I have the screen printer's number, so we're getting some.
Legend. All right,
Yeah.
man. Mate, this was fun. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
And if for anyone that's going to be listening to this, go check this guy out. He's going to places and are really going to change the face of jiu-jitsu and the apparel scene. So
Yeah.
go check him out.
So it's our Instagram's Jitsy Club.
Yeah.
And if you guys want gear, if you use the code JITSY20, you'll get 20% off everything. And my Instagram handle's Nicholas Kitten, if you want to follow me on there.
Legend.
Sweet. Good speaking to you, man.
Take care. Talk soon.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.